All right. What did everyone think of Def Grandma?
Good times.
Yeah,
I feel
it's-
like you really felt how much more terrible it was in JavaScript and in like Node versus Python. Like Python, it was like 10 minutes. In JavaScript, it was like an hour or more.
Yeah, it was easy in Python.
Yep.
The prompt library was like, to wrap my head around that in like an hour was a mind bender.
Yeah. Yeah, Def Grandma is always a doozy. And utilizing the prompt library. We've had people solve it without using the prompt library, but they've used like a different equivalent of the prompt library. So let's go ahead. All right, let's fork this over to my personal GitHub. So I'm going to come up. I'm in Mike Platoon Def Grandma. I'm going to fork it over up in here in this fork. It says you fork Def Grandma. Not yet. So I'm going to pick Tom Preet. It's going to show that little scanner. It's copying over Def Grandma to my personal GitHub. Right here. There we go. I'm going to git clone it. So I'm going to come over here to code in my personal GitHub, Def Grandma code, copy that URL. Where'd it go? There we go. So I want to fork and clone it down. So I want to be in Mike Platoon challenges or Mike challenges. So I need to go up one level by doing CD ... to go up from 99 bottles to Mike challenges. So there we go. I'm in Mike challenges now. And now I can git clone Def Grandma down. I should see that little Def Grandma come down. Great. We're going to do this in JavaScript. Let's open this up and let's read some of this README. So this small challenge comes from blah, blah, blah. So the premise is to write a code where you can imitate a grandma who's hard of hearing and follows these constraints. If you don't input anything and just hit enter, she responds with what? If you ask a question with any lowercase letter, she responds with speak up, kid. If you talk to her in all uppercase, she responds with no, not since 1946. The first time you say goodbye, she says leaving so soon. The second time you say goodbye, she says later, skater, and then the program exits. This is just an example input. I know the prompt library has some like text in there that says like user input and other stuff. That's okay. It's not a big deal. We just want to make sure that you understand the logic of the stuff. So considerations, we're not going to do Python. We're going to do it in JavaScript. So again, it is very difficult to do it in JavaScript, but we're going to have to definitely use if else statements and else statements. And we'll need to read some documentation. Again, just make sure to read through the instructions. Do it twice if you have to. Just make sure you're reading everything, just so you don't miss anything. So we will need prompt. I'm just going to open up these. And is that just a Google? So window prompt. Here we go. Person. So if I just try it myself, I've never seen prompt before, and I click try it. Okay, a little window pops up. Great, that's easy. I can take some user input. Cool. Hello, some user input. How are you today? That's cool. But we're in a browser because JavaScript is the language of the web. So it has a natural, or it has a built-in prompt function within the window. So there's that, but we're going to be doing this on our local machine, not in any browser. And we have this Flatiron prompt document, or this library. So this library was created so it can act as a prompt, like in the browser, but on your local machine, because JavaScript doesn't have that built in. And we can read through it. A beautiful command line prompt for Node.js. We're going to be using JavaScript and Node. Prompts the user for input, supports validation, hides passwords, etc. Now we got a usage. Using prompt is relatively straightforward. The two core methods you should be aware of prompt get and prompt add properties. Their methods are take strings representing property names in addition, blah, 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 blah. And looks, oh, cool. We have an example right here. So I'm just going to literally copy this because I don't know how the prompt works yet. Now I'm just going to throw that within my def grandma function and try to execute this. So, well, I'm going to take that out. Actually, I'm not going to do it inside my def grandma. I'm going to do it below my def grandma and see what happens. So ls clear, I need to cd into def grandma, list everything out. There's my def grandma JS. So node def grandma JS. And now it says, okay, errors galore. Here we go. Cannot find module prompt. All right, I've never seen this error before. I have no idea what the hell it means. Just means I guess it can't find this prompt module. All right, it says code module not found. All right, that's what the error says. So I'm a developer now and an engineer, so I need to figure out what's going on. I'm going to Google this. Error, can't find module prompt. How do I resolve can't find module error using Node.js? After pulling down a module, how old? This is 8 years old, Jeebus. Using npm install the module into the correct directory. Okay, I've never heard of npm install before, so let's Google that. Is it prompt? Because that's the prompt thing we need. Okay, I've got this npm prompt. Is that the same prompt we have before? Yes, this looks like the same code that I'm trying to copy and paste. And so npm is Node Package Manager. It allows us to install software that other people have written or companies have written and use that in our own projects. Makes our lives easier. So instead of reinventing the wheel, people have already created this prompt functionality for us. Now we just need to be able to use it. And how do we use it? There's this little install. We can literally just copy that. It says copy to clipboard. And we can go down here and do npm. I can copy it, npm I, which stands for install prompt, or I can literally just say npm install prompt. And so it's downloading that package. Great. A bunch of weird warning things came up, but it looks like nothing really actually significantly bad happened. Added 33 package from 16 contributors and audited 33 packages. One package is looking for funding. That just means they're looking for donations. Don't worry about it. Found 0 vulnerabilities. But now when I look up here, I see a huge file got added called node modules with all these folders and blah, blah, blah. And we have this package.json lock file.
I got a quick question.
Yep.
When you go to push all this back up to GitHub, is it supposed to send the node modules and stuff up in the update?
If you did, that's okay. But going forward, don't push node modules because it's a huge file, a huge folder, and it's going to consume a lot of bandwidth in your GitHub.
Yeah, when I uploaded my def grandma one, it
if you did
like 300 documents.
If you did, that's okay. That's totally fine.
Okay, cool.
But going forward, exclude node modules.
Will you show us how to do that?
Yep, we'll do that after we talk about our Git lecture today.
Perfect.
All right, I'm in my def grandma right now, and we'll talk about like package locked and all that stuff later. So there we got the node modules, package lock, def grandma. Let's do node def grandma JS, and let's see if this is actually going to work. All right, prompt username. All right, Tom, email, tom@email.com. Command line input received, username Tom, email Tom. All right, now let's actually see what's happening. So we imported required the prompt package, and we assigned it to a variable named prompt. And prompt has a built-in method attached to this library called start, which starts the prompt. And prompt has another built-in method called get, which gets two properties from the user, which is username and email. And this get method, which is a function, it looks like it takes in two parameters or two arguments. An array that represents what we want to get from the user, so like a username and email, and then it also takes in a function which runs, it takes in the input, like an array of username, email, and we can actually console log. Let's actually console log what the result, console log result. So this is like a callback function that executes after you input these username and email. So I'm literally just exploring to seeing how this works, because I don't know like what result is. I'm guessing it's an object based off of result username and result email. So node def grandma, username Tom at email.com. So it looks like this is the result. It's an object. I'm just gonna mess with this a little bit. I'm gonna say like first name, and I'm taking the last name, and first name, last name, result. Let's actually say first name, last name. So, because I'm guessing these are the named keys that are added to that object, the result object. So I'm going to run this again and just see how this changes a little bit. So first name, Tom, last name, Preet. Cool. First name, Tom, last name, Preet. Okay, I kind of understand how this is working now. Now let's actually try to do this with def grandma. All right. Let's see. Let's try to start this thing. All right. Yep. Does someone have a question?
Yeah, I did, Tom.
Yep.
So when you're trying to get access, so inside of the prompt.get brackets, you have access to all of those variables, result, first name, and et cetera.
Mm-hmm.
If you want to get out, if like on line 27, if you add a, how do you get access to the result, first name variable outside of that callback, outside of the brackets within prompt.get?
I don't know off the top of my head. I don't know if you can actually.
Okay.
And yeah, I don't think it's possible.
Okay.
Can you explain on line 18 in the prompt.get method what that additional function is, like the two parameters? Why is that included?
So this essentially prints out whatever you want to happen after you put in a user's input. So it's a callback function. So once you type in first name, last name, then this first name and last name gets added to a result object, and then it calls this function by passing in the result object into this function as an argument, and then you can do anything you want. This is where all your logic would go. So I can say like if first name equals Tom, console log, hi Tom, I don't know, or yeah, hi Tom, and then I can get rid of this stuff if I want, else console log go away. So if I just yeah, I'm just going to delete the last name, and I'm just going to take in a first name. I don't want to take in more than one I don't want to get more than one input. So I could say first name. I could say like Tom. Uh-oh, what happened? Did I do something? Oh, I didn't start the prompt. So I clear that. So I got the first name. I have to say Tom. Oh, what's going on? Oh, if results. So let's actually kind of read what's going on here. So it says prompt first name Tom. Came into this function, then it said console log results. So it's console logging the result. And it says read line or read line, JavaScript, blah, 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 1000. That's probably within the package. That says reference error, first name is not defined. It's because it needs to be result dot first name. Let's do triple equals. So if I come down here and clear it and run this again, Tom says, hi, Tom. If I run it again and say like Joe, it says go away.
I guess additionally, what I was curious about is the first parameter of that function, error.
Error? That's
Yeah,
just
what
like
is-
if it's just like if there's any error that occurs when you're running, like if for some reason an error happens within the package when it's trying to, it's just the first parameter is an error, just in case of something happens that doesn't allow the package or that function to execute correctly. We can actually console log the error. Whoop. So it's null right now. So if there was an error, something bad could happen. Like it would pass that error into this as a parameter or as an argument, and it would probably print out somewhere what the error is.
Wouldn't it give you an error function regardless if there was? Wouldn't the terminal tell you?
Yes, but it depends on where the error occurs in the library. So yeah, it depends on where the error occurs. So like the error might occur somewhere within the function, like in this prompt function or this prompt library, and then it will just print out this error. All right. And that's just the way the developers created this library. It's just they had a reason why they put it in error.
But for that module, the npm module, that has to be included.
Yes. So if I didn't include that, I'm sure something bad would happen. Yeah. Yeah. So, yeah. So the way the developers who developed the prompt library made the very first input.
It's just buried somewhere on line 1100.
Yep. So if you want,
Okay.
you can go into the documentation and look at the source code of this library if you really wanted to. All right.
I don't want.
Let's go ahead and try to do def grandma. So the first thing we need to do is start the prompt right there. And so if we're going to work within the confines of this def grandma function, I'm going to move, delete that, and just move up here just to show comments out what's happening. Start the prompt, and then I'm going to move this up within the function. There we go. And I'm going to get some user input and just see if I'm able to console log the result. All right. Just gonna delete all this code. Start the prompt. Clear that. I'm gonna run this. All right, cool. So def grammar is runs. So it starts the prompt, then it executes def grammar, this function. It comes into here, and then it runs this prompt.get. Tries to get a user input. I'm gonna say, hi, grandma. Cool. So now once we have all this logic, or now we can actually do some logic in here to figure out what the user's input is and do all these if-else statements. So let's go back and look at def grammar. So if the user just hits enter, well, let's not even do that. Let's do, if you ask a question with any lowercase letters, she responds with what? Or speak up, kid. So I can say like, if user, how do I check to see if the user's input has lowercase letters in it?
What I did was results.user input to lowercase equals user input.
Results dot user input dot to lowercase
Yeah. Parentheses. Yeah.
equals
Results.user input.
results dot, no, why is it doing that? Ugh. Dot user input. I'm just going to console log. What is it? If, what is this supposed to say? Speak up, kid?
Yeah.
Like that? Cool. So let's run that. User input. I'm going to do all capital letters. Nothing happened. Great. I'm going to do lowercase letters. Speak up, kid. So we have that one. Let's actually do this first one. If
Wait, doesn't it say doesn't it require like any lowercase letter? So if there's just one lowercase letter, because it says if any of it is lowercase.
Like a mix between upper and lower.
Yeah, I think so.
So if we do result.userinput.to lowercase, that's checking to see if the string is in all lowercase. So that wouldn't give us the most perfect results, because if there's just one lowercase, it's not going to pick it up. So I use regex to just looking for any one lowercase.
okay.
So since the other condition is looking for all caps,
Yeah.
I did if it's to uppercase equals user input,
There you
good.
go.
If it does not equal, bad.
Yeah.
Yep, that works.
So that's
Yeah,
a good, yeah.
I did that too.
So yeah, it's probably easier to do that instead of. So if result, let's do this first one. If result dot user input equals an empty string. Let's do triple equals for all this stuff. Return, or not return, console log. Was it what? What? Okay. Yep. And then else if, well, we want to keep this running. So let's actually call def grammar again on both of these. So I can say like enter what? I can say some lowercase stuff. Oh, why did
Yeah,
user
I
input?
think the original solution worked with the 2 lowercase, because if it was mixed case, then it wouldn't match like whenever you switched everything to lowercase.
Shouldn't that just be a not equal to for that uppercase not equal to result dot user input?
Let's see. I'm gonna try to
I
do
mean, I
something.
think the original one was correct. And
Okay.
you could test it by like putting in a different prompt.
Let's actually, before I get to this one, because maybe at the very end, this might just be the very last else statement. If nothing else works, you can figure that out.
That's how I use it.
But it's the very last else statement.
Yeah.
Yep.
And it catches like other inputs too. Like if they only put in numbers or if they put in like weird stuff and
Sweet.
Yeah.
All right. So let's just keep going because we might have to move these statements around in the correct order. So if you talk to her in all uppercase, she responds to not since 1946. So here this could be, it's actually not since 1946. So yeah, let's just make that speak up kid the last one for time. Let's tackle this one last. Let's run this again. All uppercase. Oop. Oop. Why did that not
You
work?
had a lowercase d in your user.
Oh, there we go. Uppercase. Cool. So now it's prompting me again, and I can just press enter what? All right. So the first time you say goodbye, she says, leaving so soon. Okay. So now we have to store a variable of how many times the number of goodbyes they've said. So I'm going to make a global variable called number of goodbyes. So someone asked me how they can access the result outside of this function.
Yeah.
Yeah, sorry. I meant to, yeah, you can access it, or you can assign it to a global variable. So like what we're going to do now. So I'm assigning number of goodbyes. And I can say, let's see, else if result dot user input equals goodbye and number of goodbyes. Or we don't even need to do that yet. So user goodbye, we can say console log leaving so soon. So leaving so soon. Yep. Without the exclamation point. Now we want to increase the number of goodbyes by 1 by doing plus plus and then call def grandma again. So let's just see if this works. User input, I could say goodbye. Oh, what happened? So it's not in the right order because it's coming down here and says, hey, goodbye is all uppercase. So it's coming in there and say not since 1946. So it looks like we have to actually move this else statement right there.
Could you add an additional argument in that second else if statement? Well, second now, just by putting and input is not equal to goodbye. Line 16.
line 16, you could do that. Or you can even say like, or yeah, you could definitely do that if you wanted to. But I kind of want things to go in order, just so less things are checked. But yeah, that is definitely a way you can go about it. Goodbye. Leaving so soon? Okay, cool. I can do lowercase. Nothing's checking to see if it's lowercase yet. So the second time you say goodbye, she says later, skater. So I could do pretty much copy this. Whoop. There we go. And so user input is goodbye and number of goodbyes equals 1. And she says later, skater. And now it exits the program, so I don't need to call it again. So let's try that part out. So goodbye, goodbye, later, skater, and then it exits the program. So we have that working. So we have this one working, this one working, this one working. We have what working, but we don't have speak up kid yet. So at the very end, we can just do else. Speak up kid. Copy this. So, oh, we also need a hey kid right there. So I'm gonna, outside of here, I'm going to console log. Hey kid. So now let's actually just kind of test this. This should be working. So let's try to do the example. Hey kid, say hi grandma. I'll load this. Hi grandma. Speak up kid. I said hi grandma. I said hi grandma. Not since 1946. I don't press anything. I say what, or she says what. I said goodbye. So speak up kid. Goodbye. Leaving so soon. Goodbye. Later, skater. So that's it.
I have a question about the result user input to uppercase equals result user input. Behind the scenes, is that looping? Is that iterating through each character to make sure they're each uppercase?
So this part?
Yeah. Is that doing its own loop within that function? I'm thinking.
I would imagine it's doing something like that.
Okay.
I don't know I don't know what the built-in method, how like the logic behind it is actually works. It could be,
Okay.
it could be some other way it's doing it as well. I'm not quite sure.
Thank you.
Yep, no problem. So again, I npm installed the prompt. This starts the prompt. I'm declaring a global variable of number of goodbyes. Starting at 0. I'm console logging this first, and then I'm executing this defgramma function, comes into here. And then it runs the prompt.get, which takes in a user input. So it takes in any user input, and then it passes that user input in a result object that has a user input key. So I can do a bunch of logic in here. If result input or user input is an empty string, console logs what, and then it executes defgramma again. So it calls this function again, and then just goes down the line with a bunch of if-else statements.
If you put another line on like 28 and console log something, does it console log that immediately at the start of the program, or is that gonna do it
Yes.
after the prompt?
No, so it's going to first come in here. It's going to console log this, and then it's going to console log first, and then it's going to execute def grandma, and then it's going to execute the prompt.
So if you put first after the invocation of the function at the bottom, it won't console log first until the very end of the program?
Yeah, I believe so. Let's check that out. Oh, well, that's
Okay.
weird. So it looks like it executed it and then it console logged it.
Okay. If that's the case, like, and you're continuing on with the program, how would you, it seems like it's running the rest of your code before or while the prompt, you know what I mean? Like
Yep.
they're running together. How would you use a variable from this in the rest of your program then?
I would use it as I would declare a promise, which is a whole nother thing, and using asynchronous code.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
we'll get into promises later on.
Got it.
So that kind of explains why the while loop didn't work, I guess.
What are
I have
you
a quick
referring to?
question for you, Tom.
Yep.
If you so with all of your if and else if statements, if you consolidate that into one into its own block, can't you just call def grandma at the end as long as it's in a different block? So like if you put in a user input and it satisfies one of the if statements, it'll leave that block and then call def grandma again, and then you just go back up instead of putting def grandma below every else if statement. Couldn't you just call it once?
So like right here.
Yeah, and then you delete all the other def grandmas, and
then
I think that would work. I'm not sure though.
we can try it out. I'm going to stop the recording right now just so